In my culture, if you marry somewhere and the wife dies, they can give a woman from the same place. In their culture, never. She was buried in our home next to my mother, next to my parents. Yeah. She was a cousin to my late wife. She used to come home to see my son. They even told my family that this is the end of Fred. Tell him to sell his property and wealth, and then the government will deal with him. That was a tragedy, leaving a son who was still breastfeeding. Secondly, she's passed on. For me, 2018 started at the worst note ever. It was a very difficult moment for us. I got arrested on January 2nd. Within 12 hours, actually less than 12 hours, she passed on. In fact, the first person to visit me in a cell was not my closest friend. Even the mortuary cannot accept a body without a death notice. So if they also suspected there was something done to her that led to her death, they could have never issued. They could actually call the police to arrest me from when I arrived.
Hello and welcome to EddyMacks TV channel, where we bring you hot stories from all corners of life. And my name is Edith Mackrell. And today I have a wonderful guest, Professor here. He is here at EddyMacks TV channel. Without further ado, allow me to let him introduce himself. Karibu sana, Prof.
Thank you very much, Edith.
Yeah.
I'm Professor Fred Ogolla. I'm the leader of Linda Jamii. Yes.
You are doing a great job, Professor.
Yeah, of course. I usually tell people these are callings. You know what is a calling? It starts from being from God, but God calls you always for the people. Remember, Moses was not called for his own self. Moses was called to help deliver the people of Israel. So I'm sure I'm here to maybe educate Kenyans and defend Kenyans of everything called public interest. So anything of public interest, it becomes a calling to me. Yes.
Yeah, you have a very interesting story that I would like you to share to Kenyans so that you can change someone's life. I know very well that your wife passed on when she was it 6? The baby was 6 weeks old.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted you to share that story a little bit.
Yeah, so I think that my wife had just given back to a son called Mattis, and within 6 weeks, he had very serious complications. I think he just fell down, and within no time, she was being admitted in hospital, and within 12 hours, actually less than 12 hours, she passed on. So, that was a tragedy, leaving a son who was still breastfeeding. Secondly, she's passed on. Thirdly, I think that was on 1st of January 2018. Then I got arrested on January 2nd. So the whole nation was on me. Like you can say, every breaking news. That was a breaking news.
When was that?
That was on 2nd of January 2018. Remember those days, normally, yes, thank you. Normally those days, those hours or those days, normally there's no big story. So anything like that, mostly are social stories, how people celebrated Christmas. For me, 2018 started at the worst note ever. It was a very difficult moment for us. My family was completely in trouble because every time they look at a newspaper, you look at news, whether it's in Luo, Kiswahili, English, it was all about a professor who killed his wife. In fact, the whole country was made to believe it. But why I tell people that when you believe in God, you should not panic. God liberated us from there. Unfortunately, losing life is something that cannot be recovered. The pains don't go away. You can tell now is a long time from now, 2024. That simply means it's 6 years down the line. But the memories are still fresh. I have details even per hour, per second, what was happening. And of course, people put pressure on you, telling you, forget about it and move on. Actually, people, there's not such a thing. You cannot forget about anyone and move on. I have her son with me. When I look at his
son, now how old?
The son is now 6 years old.
Oh, 6 years.
Yes, tomorrow he's going to go to grade 1. Unfortunately, he still doesn't know about these incidents in details. He thinks that he has a mother because I remarried, but he may not know exactly that that his mother passed on, of course. And I decided not to disclose this to him, but I know that somehow, sometime he will know. People have told me that it's good for me to tell him, but I don't think it's right to tell him. I think that he will mature up. But what I like about it is that he is doing very well with his current mother. and he's also feeling he's loved. He doesn't feel anything different. I've ensured that at home, no one sees the difference, because even he has two sisters for my current wife. And
Twins.
yeah, they were not twins, but they were followed closely.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's one who is 2 years old, another one is 1 year old. But my wife got pregnant just 2 months after giving birth to the first daughter. So they're very close, and they believe they look the same. They look like children of one mother and father. And I believe that is the spirit I have in my house, that all of them should look the same. But I'm sure at the time when he will know, because he has to know anyway, I've been building enough social capital so that he knows that he's not disadvantaged because he lost his mother. He will only be asking about the memories about his mother. We tell him, because we've kept all the memories. Even all the things which were said about me bad in the media, I've not said I delete them. I just left them there. I'm sure he'll interact with it and see what goes forward. So, yeah, but it was a very difficult time. But I will tell people maybe just a few things to know, that it's unfortunate it happened to me, but maybe there's a reason why God made it happen to me. Because I've been seeing people writing prayers in their homes by saying, God, ensure that nothing happens to me today that you and I cannot handle. That simply tells you that if God does not try you, maybe God does not trust you enough that you can overcome some things. I'm sure some people, even if their chicken die, they can commit suicide. But for the fact that we lost my wife and we are here, maybe God gave me a trial, but it's a trial maybe He knew I could overcome. And I have overcome it by God's grace, not because of my own strength, but by God's grace. And I also know that when God gives you those challenges, He also gives you equal grace to deal with them. Remember the story of Job. Job was tried. He lost all his family and his wealth. Because God told the devil, try him, but do not take away his soul and heart. So I'm sure that when God allowed Job to be tried, and Job went through all those harsh times, Job came back and was able to perform. It shows that even us, God helped us through that process. I'm sure God was there. The angel of God was there helping him, and I'm sure this is what happened to my case. The other thing I tell Kenyans is that do not be afraid of challenges and crisis, because crisis makers. They say that during crisis, a nation becomes stronger. Remember, at this time in Kenya, we are going through a serious economic crisis. We are going through a very serious leadership crisis. But instead of crying too much, we should ask God, what is God trying to tell us? And that's what I've been telling Kenyans in 2024, that Psalms 121 says, I look into the mountain, from where shall come my health? And they say, my health will come in the name of the Lord who made the heaven and earth. And my own submission is that instead of looking into State House, instead of looking into the president, I think those are like worshiping him by saying, tunaomba rais, tusimwombe mtu. Let us not worship anybody. Let us not worship our wealth. Let us not worship our work. Let us worship God in heart and spirit. And you just never know, God will reveal to us what He's telling us. And you never know, God will give us His graces to overcome this. Remember, the president was sworn in office on 9th of September. And after the election that took place on 9th of September, 2023. Remember, we crossed over 2024 and we are here. We have complained the economy is bad, but we are here. And now we begin 2024. So the 2022 we know of Uhuru is different from 2024. So let's look into God and ask God to give us the grace to deal with this, but mostly so that God can open our ears and open our eyes so that we can actually listen to Him. What is He telling us in this crisis? And I'm sure God has told me a lot. And I've gone through more crises more than that. Remember, apart from losing my wife, I was a seminarian. I wanted to be a priest. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, I was fired from there.
What happened?
All of a sudden, I was fired from there. Of course, you see, you can say what happened, but people can decide and say they don't feel you are called to become a priest. I don't think that there's a human being who can know what God is trying to tell somebody. But nevertheless, we leave it to God. Maybe what happened, maybe God wanted me to become a professor to do the work I've done for Him. After losing my wife, you see, I was also fired from Strathmore. When you are fired from Strathmore, you have a large family, you have gone through all those crises. Why should God do that to somebody who has gone through all that? Again, it is very difficult thing to explain, but nevertheless, the point I'm trying to draw here clearly is that those crises, me, I didn't make them up. I don't know the reason, but I think God is communicating something to me again through them. And of course, God has been taking care of my family until now. No one has left hungry, and we continue hoping to God. So I'm trying to those crisis makers. Even now, the thing I'm doing for community, maybe that God did not want me to become a professor in Strathmore forever. God gave me 12 years. I thank Him for having served Strathmore for 12 years because the one who gave them to me. Now, the work I'm doing for society, because I'm really passionate about something that affects society. Public interest, anything of public interest really burns my heart. Like today, I didn't know I was going to come here, but when I woke up and found the parents complaining from all over the country about the issue of KCSE anomalies, I had to come and call a press statement and mention and maybe give my advice to the head of state and his government to do something about it. So I'm sure those are the challenges. And of course, last but not least is about what I learned that really I go with home. What I go with home is that do not bet on human beings. In fact, Philippians and Philippians chapter 4 verse 6 thereabout uh, uh, says that "Woe to a man who puts trust on a human being." If you put your hope and faith on human beings, you are doomed to fail. So I know that for me, the first thing I bet on, my first bet, I bet on God. And the second bet, I bet on my bank account. Nothing else apart from the two, just bet on the two. So why I'm trying to say that, I don't mean that you cannot bet on friends. I mean that if God wants a friend to help you, God will bring them. Because sometimes we hang on to friends too much in the bar. We say this, my friend, so we have to drink until morning. You ignore your family. But sometimes those friends, when you're in trouble, they let you down. I remember all my friends that were my first-hand friends, if you like, the first-class friends, whatever you call them, they left me alone. They left me to hang. But they are,
After the death of your wife.
yes, everybody saw me as a killer. So not close friends were relating closely. But God brought so many people to me. My students whom I taught, some colleagues that I taught, some of the people who are distant network who are following on social media, who are not really close friends. They came very close. The friends who are very close, they stayed distant. They never came as close as I wanted. In fact, the first person to visit me in a cell was not my closest friend. And the closest friends who came, they were very fatalistic. They were telling me, you can't get out of this place. They were selling me hopelessness. They even told my family that this is the end of Fred. Tell him to sell his property and wealth, and then the government will deal with him. But I'm saying that what I'm trying to say in short is that if you have any friend that you're hanging on to, you might not really count it. Just be a friend. I'm not saying don't be a friend. Just be a friend, but don't count on them that whenever trouble comes, they'll come for you. Count on God. God will bring the right friend. Count on what you every day. Go wake up, work hard, put some money in the bank account if you can afford to work. I'm sure not everybody can afford to get work, but I'm saying that work hard towards anything gainful, that when you're in trouble you can come, than leaving work to sit with the friends chatting all over now and then, spending too much time on friendship. But you know very well when you are in trouble, no one will tell you that I was spending time with you, so I'll give you some money to recover. You'll have to look into God and then look at your bank or your wallet to see what will work for you or what will not work. So I believe that for me, what I learned as a young boy early enough is that bet on God first, second, bet on your bank account. And that's why I take issues about God seriously. At the same time, I always ensure that every day I do some work that can be able to earn me some living. Because even Linda Jamii we run, people might think of anything. Nobody has ever donated money to me. No institution, no donor, nobody. Everybody just watches and says you are doing very well. But I'm not saying they should pay me for what I'm doing. What I'm trying to say is that I continue relying on God, and I go work, earn some money, and again put it on the Linda Jamii activities because it's very costly. We spend a quite amount of money to do the issues we are doing. But we still don't blame anybody. We just hope that one day, God knows why Linda Jamii is there. If God wants it to die, the day I'll have my last coin, it will die. But if God still feel Linda Jamii is relevant, He will continue giving me some work and some money and put on Linda Jamii and continue working. Or maybe one day someone else will take it up and put his own money and move on. Because Linda Jamii is not about me. It's about God. People think I'm here fighting the government. People think I'm here fighting anybody. No. Me, I'm just here interested in public interest issues. And I think that people wonder, I'm professor. I'm sitting in Jivanji Garden having an interview. I should be sitting in a boardroom, maybe teaching or maybe doing research in a bigger institution like call them. But I am sitting here. Is it not a waste of time? No. It is God who has said, do my work. God doesn't choose who needs to do his work. God does not care how overqualified you are for anything. Because we will say, as a professor, why are you doing activism? You should be teaching, writing, research. But I'm saying, I've written those research, I've taught, but thieves are thieves. People are stealing money, society is being mistreated. Maybe God has asked me to use that my very intelligence and that my qualification to be able to articulate the issues much better to people so that they understand. And even those words don't come from me. They actually come from God. So, in short, it is a calling, and a calling that I have to do all my passion. But I'm saying that all maybe what I've gone through, how difficult it is. Like now, when I go and fight for people in jails for nothing, I reckon that I was in a cell for 27 days. Can you imagine? You've been sleeping on a mattress for over 30 years. You've never known how to sleep on a floor without covering yourself with a blanket. Even if I could take a bottle of water and put my head on it so that at least my head can rest on a bottle, the policeman will come and take it away and say, no, you need to sleep here. I remember the first night was so hard. I was arrested when we went to the cell. On Friday, they usually arrest many people who have drunk. Friday, Saturday, there's a lot of people being arrested. And I was there. When I looked at the floor, it was very dirty. And I felt that it was very difficult to sleep on it. And I said, I will not sleep, I'll stand. I just stood there. When it reaches 2 a.m., naturally I went to the ground and slept.
what was the reason of you being arrested?
Well, I mean, I was accused of murder. So, of my wife, yes. But of course, they did 4 postmortems and they found nothing. And that's why I was released in the end. Yeah. But of course, there was no reason to arrest me in the first case because my wife died in a hospital, sick. And the doctors were able to determine the cause of death. I went
And did they tell you the cause of the death?
Yes. Yeah, it was what they call it's called imbovilus in scientific terms, but the other term is called clot in the brain and the heart. So when you have a blood clot in the brain and the heart, everything stops moving and you pass on.
So she died from the hospital, not at home?
No, she died in hospital. She died at 12 hours from being in hospital.
She just delivered normally?
No, she went through CS.
Oh.
Yes, people relate that to it. Ask the doctor defend themselves. But of course, most of the things you leave it to God because you can never always want to fight over anything. I just said, okay, that was by God's great grace,
And what do you think that made people say that you are the one who killed your wife?
I think not people. This issue began with my wife's family. Yeah, and I don't think there was a reason. But what was the motivation? Reason means something justifiable. Motivation was what? People maybe thought I was a rich man who had money, and they were for commercial purposes. Because you see, in our culture and their culture, in my culture, if you marry somewhere and the wife dies, they can give a woman from the same place. In their culture, never. So maybe they thought that was a gone relationship. So maybe they thought that if they arrest me, I can be jailed, and if I get jailed, they can take over my son.
She was from which culture?
She is from the coast.
Oh.
So you see, I'm not saying it was a cultural issue, it was just an issue of a family.
Oh.
It won't be like, let's say this was a Taita culture or, no, there are people. I've seen very good Taita people. I'm married again from Taita people, so it was not a Taita problem.
Wow, we are yet to talk about that.
It was just, it was just a family, it was just an individual issue. Maybe one individual, not even my mother-in-law. One of the daughters of my mother-in-law is the one who came with the idea because before she arrived, everything looked normal. When she arrived, They recorded a statement in the police claiming that I killed her. But what they didn't know is that I had a death notice from the police. No, if someone dies, people need to know. In a hospital, the hospital normally has to check whether there was anything ulterior to it. If not, they cannot write a letter that you take to the police station to issue a death notice. When a police has issued a death notice, then now it cannot be a murder case because the body was moved from Aga Khan Hospital to Montezuma. You cannot move a body from a hospital to a mortuary on the traffic without a death notice. Even the mortuary cannot accept a body without a death notice. So if they also suspected there was something done to her that led to her death, they could have never issued. They could actually call the police to arrest me from when I arrived. So there are so many silly stories like, oh, I bribed Aga Khan Hospital. How much money can you bribe Aga Khan Hospital to give you?
And were you the one who buried your wife?
Yeah, she was buried in our home next to my mother, next to my parents. Yeah, yeah, yes. Yeah, so what I'm trying to say in short is that there was no reason. There was just an individual who wanted to commercialize their moment. Unfortunately, there was no any evidence whatsoever to be able to execute the mandate. And so far, we have already reconciled as a family. We talk because I'm sure that my son is their grandchild. We communicate, and everybody knows that they were wrong, and I forgave them, and life goes on. Yeah.
And what is the relationship so far from your in-laws now?
The the relationship at all is very
Since the
diplomatic.
child is there now.
Yeah, even over Christmas we do meet, we talk. Sometimes we have lunch together as a family. I don't think there's anything that should be of concern to anybody. Maybe could just be different feelings toward different issues, but not well worth expressing. For example, for me, I know I forgave them wholeheartedly and moved on. Even any conversation and one usually initiates, they can come for my son's birthday. They have always attended my son's birthday. So according to me, the relationship is perfect, and it's people learn lessons. I'm sure that was a learning moment. Just like I say that this could have happened to me so that I can learn something. I think equally it also must have happened so that they can learn something. And what is critical is the lessons we've learned from either side, not necessarily what happened. Yeah.
Then, Prof, how come you still went back to Taita when you remarried? Maybe you can tell us a little bit of that.
Not how comes I went back to Taita. You know, the persons you marry or relate with usually come from your network, and she was a cousin to my late wife,
Sure.
first cousin, and I happened to she used to come home to see my son, and
When your wife was dead?
no yeah
When
I only
was
know her
still
after I only know her after my wife died. So she used to come home to see my son because she's the first cousin to my wife. So she was concerned about helping the
Their
son.
dads are brothers or their
Yeah,
mothers?
yeah, their dads. So because of that, actually the dad and the mother, the dad of my current wife
Current wife.
is the brother to my late wife's mother. So they're cousins, first cousins.
And how did the family take it from your late wives? I know it's not easy, si rahisi.
You see now, there are a couple of things that you have to consider in life that you know I don't know how they took it, but I don't think they have an issue.
But they
'Cause-
accepted.
yeah, because what will they do? Because I don't see how these are related. Well, I feel their pain, but I'm trying to say that it is a situation that happened that was surprising to myself, to my current wife, and to everybody. In fact, even my own family, they had concerns. Even sometimes, even in my community, they would be concerned because that thing was a national issue. Even it came boiling down to tribalism, how it's a serious issue. But you see, you have to go beyond all those things. I think the most important thing here was love was involved, and you cannot stop marrying someone you love because of what other people feel.
People will always say mlikuwa mna date maybe before. Hizo ndio zitakuwa allegations too obvious.
But you see now, after someone has taken you to a jail, what other allegations do you fear? Because I don't think that there's. At the same time, you should not live your life with what people say. People say anything. Even if I married low, they say, "Oh, so you married a tighter? Now you hate titers. You married low." They'll anything they'll say, and I think that we should live our life according to what God really wants. And I can tell you, if God did not want that marriage to take place, it could have never taken place. Because I could even die before that marriage. God has all the means to stop us. So for me, I think more or less, let's listen to what God is saying. We prayed about it. We talked
I
to
know
so
it
many.
was not easy.
Yeah, we talked to so many religious leaders. They counseled us. Remember, the priest that wrote a letter to me was an ACK bishop, and this wedding was presided over by a priest.
So you did a wedding,
Yeah, we did a wedding.
and the first wife.
Both we did a wedding. Me, I can't get married without a wedding because I'm a typical Catholic. My father was a catechist. My first wife, before we started living together, we did a wedding. Even this one, before we began living together, we did a church wedding. Yeah, so
And the parents came, even
yes,
from your late wife. Did
I
they come?
well, I mean the wedding we did. This wedding was more a private wedding. When I mean by private, it was done in church, but it was not that very big party where you invite everybody. Because remember the circumstances were
Invite
also
only.
very. Remember, they have a son at home who has a different context altogether with a mother. So you know there are some things you have to do them. You ignore what is good for you and think about the other people because it cannot always be about me. It also has to be about other people. Yeah.
And maybe your wife, does she talk to the aunt who was your mother-in-law, your then mother-in-law?
They talk. They're related. Remember, sometimes they even have common relative who has died and they meet in the same place. They talk. They have groups where even sometimes when they have a common problem, they raise some funds together. So they are. I think that the relationship has not died. I don't think our marriage has in any way lowered the quality of their relationship. Their relationship has remained intact. Yeah.
Have you ever shared this before? That you married your the cousin to your wife, your late wife?
Yeah, there's no anyone who wants to talk about it. I'm easy about it because I don't think that. I know there's a taboo in Taita, but remember that those are traditional things. There are three levels of values. The first value is called personal values. The second value is called religious values. The third values is called traditional values. So between traditional values, religious values, and traditional values, which one is highest to you? I think personal values is most important, followed by religious values, then lastly traditional values. So what could stop us from getting married was more of traditional values. And the first two values are higher than traditional values, so we focus on them, especially what God is saying. If what you believe in is consistent with what God wants for you, why should you be compromised by traditional values? I think that is sometimes there are some parts of our culture that needs to die so that the nice part resurrects, and then we can live our life freely. I'm sure that even the Bible says we need to live freely. Remember that the traditional values are like in the Old Testament. And I think we're the children of the light. We are children of the New Testament. So if you're a child of the New Testament, why should you still be held hostage by the Old Testament? So I think we are looking at it in that direction. Yeah.
Now, you said that you lost your job at Strathmore. At the same time, your wife was dead. Maybe let us talk about your comeback. How did you manage to handle all that and come back to be strong the way you are?
I believe that that's a very difficult question because who can explain that? I think maybe God can do that. Um, I believe that God is the one that gives people the grace. Who knows? If you ask me before I went through them whether I can go through them, I'll tell you I cannot. I'll tell you I'll die. But the truth is that I've gone through them. But the question asks me, looking back, what has been helpful is belief in God. Simple. By giving yourself to God. For example, do you know what it means to be in a cell where you need to eat and sleep and you are mourning your wife and your son is in, you don't have your son who is 6 weeks old, and you're facing also, um, you're also facing what's called murder case. You know how those things add together? You don't know. But you know, I used to sleep. How was I sleeping? By grace of God. So I think that is more or less saying that it's the Lord. I think that's the main answer. Any other explanation may look too scientific, which does not make sense. This is a religious, this is about God, it's not about me. And I think that if everything is about God, then you leave it to God. I know people pray that God, I hand over myself to you. But do they really mean it? This is the way when you fully hand over yourself to God and tell God, do with me what you want. Let me go to bed. If I don't wake up tomorrow, it's fine. If he wishes, if it pleases you. This is, I'm going through things hard. If I don't come back, it's up to you. So even the issue of losing job in Strathmore, remember this job of Strathmore is not just like any other job. I've really invested heavily in my career. I'm a professor. I've 5 undergraduate degrees. I have 2 master degrees. I have a PhD. I have 16 World Bank certification. It's a huge investment I've made. Uh, Being jobless is not the most desirable thing, and then jobless whereby someone makes a dismissal that makes you unable to get another job because, say, for example, if you get fired from Strathmore the way they did, which institution will employ me now? Looking back and said, well, Strathmore fired you because they say you committed gross misconduct, and we are in court about it. We are waiting there for court to pronounce itself on that matter. And again, I can't say whether we shall win the case or not. Again, I leave it to God, and I'm asking any Kenyan out there to pray for me because who knows the outcome. But nevertheless, you don't have to be employed. You can self-employ yourself. So currently, I'm self-employed. I wake up, do my work, earn money, but at the same time, volunteer my time to do some work for society. And I'm not complaining. I'm thinking that it looks the same. I don't see any big difference between my income now and my income then. But I would have preferred to work where it is structured, where you know you have a salary by the end of the day. But now I don't have any assured salary. I have a family to feed. I also have some people who used to depend on me. Remember, I used to sponsor so many children in schools in Mombasa, some of them in Ugenya, some of them in Kisumu, some of them here in Nairobi, and I've not withdrawn the support I was giving them. But how do I make my money? It's by God's grace. When you see me doing all this work here, it costs a lot of money, and I don't have a job. Who will do that? Nobody. And I'm not the only person in Kenya with money. There are so many people with money who will not bother do anything for society. They think that being comfortable in their cars, in their vehicles, in their houses. I'm not only doing this work and not getting money and spending money. I'm also doing this work and also risking life. Remember, there's been an attempt to arrest me 3 times. The other one, I was supposed to be arrested in Nakuru. When the Subarus arrived in Nakuru, I already reached Naivasha. And when they were now accessing my house in the afternoon, the news has spread out so much on social media that when they arrived in my home compound, I'm married with a camera, the camera person, then they ran away. So it's a risk of life. The president has said that he is going to use the sword against the people who are litigating against him. And I'm telling him that I'll never, ever even think about it twice. I will always go to court for anything that affects the Kenyans. And I will never shy away from saying anything that I feel that I must talk about. So long as I have the facts, it's honest, truthful, and helpful, I'll continue doing it. And if it is him who he will be used, if God will use him to take me to heaven, so be it. Who is afraid of going to heaven? Everyone will go. And here we are only on this earth waiting for our death. I don't think there's something we're waiting. Even if you are studying, if death comes, you will go. God is the only person that there is no missed call. If God calls you, there's no missed call, you go. And if God wants to call me through the president's sword, fine. It's good to die with the president's sword than to die in a burning fire. Some people die in sin. If I die defending society, I want to be a saint one day. So for me, he's just giving me a better death if at all he chooses to do it. I'm not saying I'm committing suicide because also the Bible says don't die before your time comes. But I also believe that God is almighty. God knows I have a young family. God knows that I have some things maybe that He still want to use me in this world. So I only believe the day God will know my time has come, He will allow Him. Because I'm sure He's not powerful than God. That's what I'm telling people. Don't worship Him. Worship God. The day I will wake up on my bed and realize that the president is more powerful than God, I'll not go to church, I'll go to State House. And so far that I know that God is more powerful than the president, because before he became president, I was eating, I was feeding, I was breathing. Why should he become more powerful than God today? So,
Sure.
according to me, I am unmoved by those threats. In fact, those are not threats, those are people who are cowards. In fact, I would say the president is more of a coward than me. If the president was strong enough, he could not even threaten, he could just do it. Yeah, because he has everything. Even here, maybe he knows I'm here. How many policemen are under him? Let him order them to shoot me today. And after I am dead, there's something about power, let me tell you what. When you have power, don't use your power. Because when you use your power, you lose it. If the president has powers to kill me today, after he has killed me, can he kill me? He can't, isn't it? So when he uses the power, he will lose it. Like the people wanted to fire me. They had the power to fire me. When they fired me, can they fire me again? If our power is to insult you, if I insult you, can I insult you again? So I'm trying to say, when you use your power, you lose it. So me, I'm telling him to use his power. In fact, after using that sword, he lose the power of that sword. In fact, he will know there will be so many people who forever will remember the day he kills me. And forever he'll never forget that. But for me, I'll be in heaven with my creator, who has lost. This world is so troublesome. There's literally nothing to celebrate about in this country because of poor leadership. If you go early, the better. Yeah, but of course, I'm not giving up. Let it go through the right way. And I believe God knows when I should go. Me, I don't know. If He knows, let Him tell me.
Yeah, it's only God. Yeah. And Prof, maybe as we wind up, talking of a young family, of you having a young family, how old were you when you got married?
Well, I got married when I was 32.
32. Wow.
Yeah.
And at 32, you had how many degrees?
Well, I have literally spent most of my early years in study. So when I was getting married, I had finished literally all my degrees. So I had the 5 degrees, I had the 2 master degrees, I had a PhD already, and I had done my certifications because they were needed for work like consultancy for World Bank, for IMF, for European Central Bank. Those big consultations, I needed those certifications. So I've already done them. Actually, I had a planned life whereby I wanted to finish all my studies by the year 2012, and I wrote a 10-year plan. When I finished with that 10-year plan, I said that I wanted to work for 2 years, then get married. Then I got married in 2014. Yeah, so I also got my PhD when I was just about to reach 30 years. So that was also a plan. Yeah, but of course it's so taxing because I studied for too long. So I was not in any gainful employment. So you remain very poor, but you have to stick to your strategy. You know, I'm a professor of strategy, and I believe strategy is everything. So you have to stick and be faithful to the execution of your strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. And you also said that you lost your parents.
Yeah.
I believe you have someone that supported you in life to get where you are right now.
No, well, I mean, even if my parents were alive, I wouldn't say they could have taken me where I am. But besides the economic thing, let me tell people that there's something more important than economic. There are so many people in the streets here who could be looking for someone to help them, but there's something that is lacking in them. Yeah, I meet people who come to me to help them, but what people are looking for is give me money, give me money, give me money. Anybody asking for money from someone should be having a lot of poverty of vision. I'm not blaming people who beg, but the point I'm trying to draw, I have lived one of the poorest boy you can imagine. But my father taught me not to beg. So what my father gave me, which is more important than even money, was the inspiration to wake up, work hard, and deliver something. So as a young boy, my father was a catechist. He used to wake up in the morning at 3 a.m. in the morning. We used to go to dig with him. Then you come and shower at 6 a.m. and go to school. Then my father used to go as a catechist to do and teach people Holy Communion, those things. So I learned more of wake up, uh, dress up, show up, and do something. So that's what was put in me. So these other things were neither here nor there. So let me tell you that when I was in primary school, I was the child who was chased for school fees the most in the school because my father had 11 children and used to earn 1,500. So you can imagine how much money you could access to educate 11 children. It was barely enough. But you see, I did my KCP to excel. So I was nearly the best. Actually, I was the best student in Sierra district when I was doing my KCPE. And then I got scholarship to go and study in St. Mary's Yala. There's a parish priest in my hometown in Sega who told me that if you get any calling admission to any school, I'll pay school fees. But he was not paying for me for primary. My primary school was very terrible. So I worked so hard because I challenged him. I told him that he told me, first of all, he told me I cannot make it to a national school or a provincial school. And I told him, what if I bring you admission? I told me I'll pay school fees. So I was not even eating. The school was like 6 kilometers from home. I used to go to school, not come back for lunch. I used to study throughout lunchtime. And when I got the admission to St. Mary's Yala, he paid for me school fees. And when I finished St. Mary's Yala, all my studies I've never paid for a single bob. It's always been scholarship. Even those 5 degrees, the master degrees, the PhDs, I've never paid for them. What I'm telling people who could be watching this show is that the inspiration inside is more important than money you're asking for. Because so many people call and say, Professor, I want you to help me here. Let's have a meeting. The meeting ends up by saying, I want to buy a camera, give me 50,000. So you ask yourself, we are people who meet people every day. If everybody wants 50,000 shillings from me, I am even unemployed, isn't it? Can I afford it? And even if you can, even if I'm having employment, how much can you take? Now, guys are just complaining about the 10,000, the 15,000, the 20,000 shillings being deducted for house levy, isn't it? Could you imagine every day somebody asks for 20, somebody asks for 30, somebody asks for 40, somebody asks for 60? What I actually tell people, you need to really find what you're really passionate about. And the best inheritance someone can give you is an inspiration. What is it that you're inspired to do? If you don't know what you're inspired to do, you will go in and out, left and right begging, but you'll never really make it in life. Sure. And I believe that for me, the biggest thing someone can give is an inspiration. Money, I've seen rich people's children where the parents are so rich, but they have no inspiration even to get out of bed and go and study. Sure. I also have a very good friend of mine. His parents, I won't mention his name, his parents paid for him school fees for 4 years in University of Nairobi. But he never attended the class. He had no inspiration to sit down and study. So before even anything like money or something else, what my parents left me with was the inspiration to work hard, inspiration to respect people, inspiration to work with people, but also the inspiration to really believe in God, because my father was a catechist. He taught us so well about our faith and the strength to believe in God first and always be driven by what God wants and also be able to submit to God's will. I think for me, those ones were bigger things to access, because I remember when my father died, people cried. Then eventually my mother died also, we sat in the sitting room and my sister said, guys, we are completely in trouble. Our parents are both dead and they have left us with nothing in the bank account, no land to inherit. We don't even have any building to inherit. Some people die. After their parents have died, they start dividing their property. For us, we have nothing to divide. And I told my siblings, wait a minute. My parents have left us with something that no one has, that inspiration. The inspiration to work hard, the inspiration for a career, the inspiration to believe in God, the inspiration to respect God. For me, that's a bigger inspiration than anything else. And if anything I've said in this clip that you may not like, forgive me for it. But please, one thing I'm trying to say, please take the inspiration that this my life is about. My life cannot be as good as yours, or my life may not be admired as yours. But if this my life inspires you, then you have not gotten nothing from watching this clip. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah.
By the Prof, where is your ring? I can't see your ring.
No, by the way,
Eh.
the issue about the ring is a very important story, but a very controversial one as well. You know,
You said you're a Catholic.
yes, I'm a Catholic. It's nothing to do with belief. When we were getting married, we bought a ring. But you see, there are some things you discuss with your wife and you agree. I don't think that a ring means anything to do with faithfulness. I've seen so many men walking with rings and they're as unfaithful as anything else.
No, it's not about unfaithfulness, but at least it shows that you
But
are.
why should it show I'm married? I
You
know
don't
I'm
want-
married and my wife knows I'm married and I know she's married. What I'm trying to say is that we ask ourselves, what actually is the value of a ring? Tell me, what is it? What is its value?
It's just good, huh? People will know. People will understand
They
you
don't
well.
have to. In fact, a ring,
But did you
a
put
ring
it
in the
a ring?
hands. We bought a ring, we wedded with a ring,
Okay.
but we agreed that it was not mandatory to put it on. And I think
You and
my
your
wife
wife?
puts on hers. Me, I rarely put it on. Let me say I don't. You don't see me with my ring, but I'm
So
married.
you said when was your second wedding? It was 20
2021.
or 2021. So you are still in honeymoon.
Yeah. But of course, things went very fast. We have 2 children, and now we are parenting.
Wow.
Yeah, but of course, what I'm trying to say about the ring, it's very important for me to explain to you. It's just an agreement. You know, when people are going for couples, I usually know some of the things that make couples quarrel. Oh, you forgot your ring. Oh, I have not seen your ring. Or sometimes I used to go to a television show and I have not seen you with the ring. So I told my wife that I go to the gym and sometimes I need to remove my ring and sometimes I forget it here or there. Let's just agree. I love you. You love me. We get married. I don't have to put on a ring. I love you. Check whether I'm unfaithful. That's the most important thing. And mostly, a ring has been used as a magnet to attract some women. That some women, when they see a man with a ring, is when they even get more attracted.
Sure.
Yes, ask the women. Me, I don't know, but I think they'll tell you better. Yeah, so for me,
They
I
now
believe,
think that this is the right one. Huh?
for me, I believe that my heart has a ring,
Oh.
and it's all from my heart. I don't believe on too much symbolism, and you don't see me with a lot of bling bling. You don't see anything on my neck. You don't see me, but even some people walk with rosaries on their neck and the rest. But I also believe that it is all about what is inside, because even baptism, which is done using a sign of the water, is always a sign of unseen. So you have been baptized in your heart. But you don't have to baptize. You don't have to show symbols everywhere, signs everywhere. As a Catholic, sometimes I put on a rosary on my neck, especially if I'm going to church, because also it's important also to show this to have it, because sometimes you go to church, people want you to say rosary. But why should I go to rosary even in the gym? Why should I walk with rosary on the streets? Equally, my wife knows my faithfulness and I know her faithfulness, and we should not focus on externalities. We agreed that our love is not for public consumption. Our love is for our own consumption. I see people walk on the streets when they want to show people they can kiss on the street. You know, when I was living in Europe, I saw something very strange about white people. In fact, that's why even all these things I lost it. I used to have neighbors who are couples. They are fighting at home until they cannot even cook together. Where someone cooks his own food, the other cooks his own food. But on the street, they are hugging and kissing. So what are these people trying to show the world? So I don't like love for public consumption. If you cannot kiss a woman in the bedroom, why are you sure you can kiss her in the street? Some people cannot hug a woman at home, but they want to hug in the street. So according to me, love is, as African, love is sacred. Actually, it's called an intimate relationship. Intimate in good terms is called a naked relationship. Because if you are married, the fact that you can be together must be intimate. I'm sure you know what I'm trying to say. So it's a naked relationship whereby you know me as I am, I know you as you are. Why should you even dress and show things off and show you can hug, your wife can dress this way? For me, love is for public. It's not for public consumption. It's for private. It's confidential. It's intimate. So it remains so. The day my wife will believe that only when she sees the ring that I love her, then I'll be forced to put on. But so long as she is comfortable about it, I'm okay with it. Yeah.
Wow, that is so wonderful and it's so encouraging, Prof. I didn't expect that from you.
A marriage between someone who is older and younger is not a problem, because that is actually is called
And how old is your wife?
Now you're asking a wrong question.
I told you, Prof. Today we're not going to talk about politics. How old is she?
No, my wife is 32.
Oh, 32. And you are now, okay, I can guess.
You can
Okay.
guess. We are actually by
You are,
we are apart by around 10 years, if not 12. But of course, I don't think that there's anything to do there. Actually, according to me as an economist, and with all data put aside, the man should be older than a woman by around 10 years. 10? Yeah, 10 years. That marriage works. Do you know why? First of all, men mature slowly. And then secondly, it's also about the economics. You know, a man was born to become the provider of a woman. So, at what age should a woman marry? Let's say you are marrying at 25, isn't it? At 25, the man you are marrying should be around 35. So that a man at 35 is a man who has already set up his life. For example, my life was already set up economically by the time I was 30. So then I could marry a woman who was 20, because my first wife, when I married her, she was 21, isn't it?
what?
And myself, I was 29
29.
when we began dating. So it was an average of around 9-10 years thereabout. This one is around 10 years. So my wife, this woman marrying me, was not, for her, the age difference nothing to do with what we are talking about these days. For her, it was about love, and love only. Because even the tradition was against it, everything was against it, but only love was the issue. But going back to the issue of age, do you know that in Europe, in the West, they judge a success of a man by how the age difference between a man and a woman. Because to marry a younger woman, because you are not too much physically attracted to him, if you're a woman, there must be something else that attracts you. And that's why you see wealthy men tend to marry younger women. It's a sign of success. Because a younger woman marry an older woman,
But they are married. They have wives.
Yes, I'm saying yes. I'm talking about marriage. The ones for relationship or working with, that one I don't know.
Yeah.
That one is too porous. I'm talking about marriage. For a younger woman to accept to marry an older man, there must be something else she's getting to compensate for this age difference. So that's why you see mostly successful men tend to marry younger women. And for these women to accept to marry them, there must be something they're getting more than just the relationship. And it helps her. For example, if you marry a younger woman, you can help her with her career. You have more experience, you have more exposure. In a marriage where two people are trying to learn where to go and no one really knows where to go, is a disaster. But having two different women, two different people, somebody who knows something that somebody does not know, helps the other one, because also the younger women knows the latest ways of doing things that the other one doesn't know. So there's a blend between the new and the old. So I find that should be fine. The only thing I don't like is whereby it turns to be purely for commercial purposes. There's no love, there's no relationship, because they end us in a very bad way. Because I've seen some cases whereby some people end up killing the other for the sake of other things. For example, you marry a woman who is young, she's very intelligent, she has a very good career. For you, thought you are marrying her because she's stupid, she'll be submissive. Don't be deceived. These women, as young as they are, they know you as a man. They look at you in 2 days, they have known everything about you. So if you think by marrying a younger woman, you are marrying someone who is less educated, less exposed, you are wrong. Marry that woman, but take her as equal in that marriage. At the same time, the other women who are coming to marry an older man, you must know why you are marrying them. And first of all, it's good to marry them if you love them and they love you. And then secondly, you have to know that there's some benefits of marrying an older man. And of course, you also have to know now, what do you bring in if already she has already well-established life. Two, if a man and a woman marrying each other and all of them are already well established in their life, you already have your routine. Do you know it's difficult to have two people who already are too mature to align to each other? So if you marry a younger woman, she tends to be easy to align. You tend easy to find how you can adjust each other. But if, for example, a woman who is 30 years marrying another man who is 45 years, they are both working. This one works for that big company. Those marriages tend not to work very much. Some people talk about marry a woman who is already working with the payslip, but when they come with their payslip, they also come with their conditions. So I think that let us ignore the age. Let's focus more on love. And also, as I told you, sit down, pray, and ask God whether this is the right thing to do, genuinely. Unfortunately, the economy is very bad that if you land on one, like Kenyan girls say, I've gotten a visa if you get a Mzungu. You marry a man that you can rarely walk with just because you'll get a visa to Europe. Once you get to Europe, you discover that Europe is not as good as you thought. Then you start disagreeing and then you end up in very difficult situation. I tell people, go back to God, um, go back to love, and economics. If you are very sure about yourself, you can still work hard and earn the money. What if you marry an old man only to find out that you can actually be so successful without their wealth? Then you end up with the man you don't want, and you are so successful. Then you find that whatever you thought he was giving you, you can get for yourself, and then brings a lot of disagreement. So that's why my focus is just focus on love. Don't worry about these other things. They're noise. Yeah.
Wow, that was so good, Professor. Thank you so much, Professor, for giving us this time. Yeah, at EddyMacks TV Trends. Of course, we've looked for you for so long just to share this story. I know this story will inspire someone out there. So thank you so much for your time. To our EddyMacks fans, thank you for tuning in. This is EddyMacks TV Trends. My name is Edith Mackrell. Stay tuned.
Thank you.